All right. Hello, everybody. It's a beautiful day today, I guess, for you guys. It's the Reese Gourmet walk through a legacy of organ donation with Shane and Missy. And today we have a special guest, which is Suzette. Go ahead and say it.
Sharp and Shay.
Sharp and Shay. Sharp and Shay. Okay, we got it. I think we got this.
We got it.
So last time we were on, we talked about quite a bit of stuff. We've still been talking about our myths. We've been busting myths, and we're still talking about LOPA and how everything got started with me and Missy. We're still going down Missy's path of her story. Today we have Suzette with us, which is a special guest. And I am not going to explain who she is today. We're going to let somebody else do it. My partner, my co-host, my sister. Missy, why don't you tell us who Suzette is and how you guys know each other?
Okay, so if everyone remembers from the very first episode, I read a letter from one of Reese's organ recipients. And it just so happened that Jacob surprised me and came and surprised me at the Woody Overton Crew Bash. And that's Reese's kidney recipient. And Suzette is Jacob's mom. So she came on today just to visit with us and kind of maybe tell a little bit of her side of the story. And I think the first question I might ask you, Suzette, is how did you feel, or what was going through your mind whenever you received the first letter from me to you?
I think that the first letter that I received was just it was really comforting to know that Reese had donated out of the abundance of his heart. And I think that was the biggest thing that I got from that letter, was that you conveyed that this was something that he wanted to do. So it really struck me as, wow, this is a real person,
Yeah.
a genuine person.
Yeah, definitely. And then I received a letter back from you, and I read it on our first podcast our first YouTube video that we did. And it it was talking about how Reese and Jacob were so much alike, loving hunting, loving fishing, and I have to say this very quietly, Xbox.
Very
because
quiet.
There's other people that don't like Xbox, they like PlayStation. So anyway,
yes.
But it was just, and then the fact that Reese wanted to go work for the wildlife and fisheries when he grew up, or he wanted to be a fisherman, charter guy, whatever. He wanted something to do in the world of fishing and hunting. And come to find out from the letter from you, I got that it, showed so many characteristics of what Reese was all about in Jacob, and that, Jacob loved to fish, that Jacob loved to hunt, that's what he spent his time doing. And, not to mention the Xbox part of it too. So, I think maybe about a year went by, and somebody's dogs are barking.
Yeah, they're my dogs. My wife is just looking at them.
And
see, that's the part of this show. It's telling you, it's unscripted.
That's okay. My dogs will probably bark too. Anyway, so a year had gone by, maybe a year and a half. And I don't know if you know this or if I told you this, Suzette, but I actually received the letter from you, your first letter back, on Mother's Day, like a year and a half prior. Okay. So that was like one of the best Mother's Day presents I could ever get. And then, and we kind of left it at that. And another, I guess, year and a half had gone by, and I wrote you the letter inviting you to the Crew Bash. So do you want to maybe tell me how you and Jacob came about deciding to come and finally meet me?
It was quite interesting, because when I got the letter, and I got the letter from LOPA, and I read the letter first, and I showed it to my husband, and he said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "That's not my decision. That is Jacob's decision, because he's an adult now."
Right.
And so I gave him the letter and I said, I have a letter for you to read. Read this letter. Let me know what you think. So he reads the letter, and the first thing he says is, well, what do you think I should do? And I said, Jacob, I can't make that decision for you. This is a decision you have to make. And I think we had the letter probably 3 weeks, something like that. And he never said a word to me about it again. And then one day he just pops up, and I think it was a couple of days before the crew bash, and he says, I think I want to go meet them. And I said, all right, let's go.
Yep. And then, so yeah, Jacob, kind of wanted, I think you both maybe wanted to meet ahead of time, because I know Jacob's shy, and I think you might have been a little afraid, of how you would react emotionally when you saw
Right.
me, and you didn't necessarily want to like put it on display for an audience of people. So we made the decision to go ahead and meet ahead of time. So how was it seeing me the first time? And tell them about the Grand Isle thing.
Yes, I will. Uh, it was very emotional. It really was. It was just this influx of every emotion possible. It was happiness, it was sadness, it was gratefulness, it was just every emotion I could experience happened all at one time, which I had never had an experience like that before. So it was really a good experience for me. And I think for Jacob too, and his thing is, oh, Mom, you always cry. Every time we go somewhere, you gotta cry. And I'm like, it's all right, I'll be okay. Don't worry about it. But
Yeah.
so it was a good experience for us. Um, and I already knew who you guys were because I had done some Facebook stalking and social media. I shouldn't say Facebook, but some social media stalking. And and we spent a lot of time down in Grand Isle. So I got, I had the experience of meeting some of your family members that stayed in the same RV park as we did. And because like I said, we had already kind of stalked you guys out. And when we found out what Reese's last name was, we were like, wait a minute, I wonder, yes, it is those guys.
Wow.
Is that
Look,
crazy? That was like the second thing that she told me after we, met each other. And, it's awkward. It's very awkward meeting somebody for the first time because you don't know their personalities. You don't know, who knows? I could be some crazy woman, oh, you have my son's kidney now. Now you're part of my, you're my child now too. You have people like that, and you don't know who you're going to come across or what kind of personality they're going to have. So you're guarded, but then, once you experience each other's, personalities, then as the day or the hours go by, you tend to kind of get a sense of who it is that you're talking to. And it was probably the second or third thing that she told me about how the whole entire time she knew my extended family, and they just so happened to have a RV down in Grand Isle in the same camping park as my in-laws. And not to mention that, so my in-laws were at the very front of the park. They always got the first spot, and Jacob and Suzette and his family always had the last spot. And she told me that her husband had gone over and talked to my brother-in-law Doug, and he was maybe just talking and what have you, and he found out that Doug had lost one of his nephews, and so they kind of knew all along. And the funny thing about all this is that I did a little bit of stalking myself because
Okay, I know how to watch you two now.
yeah,
All right,
so,
here we go. Let me take a
when
picture of your faces. Here we go. I got you now.
when I got the letter back, she gave me enough information to go online and just type in her her first name. I didn't know her last name, but I typed in her first name and Jacob's name, and I knew they were from New Iberia. I knew he was 18ish. And so I think I found unfortunately an obituary, but it at least gave me Suzette's last name. So then I went on to social media and looked her up, and I saw, but I never knew if that was really him or not until I actually saw him. So I had his picture in my phone wondering if that was him the whole time. So Yeah, because I mean,
Wow.
there's rules that we have to follow. So, yeah.
Yeah,
if the
and I know the
year
two
has
of
to
you
go.
now being together will break every rule possible. So now I'm gonna start watching both of you.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
you
we've
betcha.
already started doing that.
Oh, hey, I got a question for both of you, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there in this and that's gonna watch this that's wondering, and we're gonna kind of go backwards a little bit. Okay. Suzette, I want to hear about the day you found out that you had a match, a donor. Okay. And then I want you to hear that. And then Missy, I want you, after she's done, I want you to explain how you found out that there was a donor for the liver or whatever it was. I still don't know the whole story, but I'm learning as I go. I'm really enjoying this listening. But first of all, Suzette, explain to me about the day that you found out that you had a donor for your son.
And how long he had been on there and the perfect match part of it as
Yeah.
well.
Okay. All right. Jacob had been on the donor list for almost exactly 2 years. He had had 5 call outs, which means that we went to the hospital 5 potential times for a potential
Wow.
transplant for his kidney. This was his 5th call out. I'm sorry, he had 4 call outs and we were on his 5th call out. I was at work. I just started summer school because I was teaching, and I was at work, and I guess it was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and my phone rang, and I saw it was the hospital, and I told my coworker, I taught PE, so I told my coworker, I have a call from the hospital, and I answered the phone, and they said, Miss Charpentier, this is the hospital. We have another potential for Jacob. Can y'all come on over? So I said, absolutely. I looked at my coworker, he looked at me, and he said, bye, because he couldn't look.
He's seen you go 4 times before, right?
He's seen me go before. So I started to walk towards the office, and he said, don't walk towards the office, go home. So I turned around, I got in my car, and I left, and he went and told my principal that I had to leave for me. And while I was on the way home, she called and she said, good luck. I hope this one works. I said, oh, yes. So I got home. On my way home, I called and I told my husband, I said, tell Jacob, get his bag and let's go. We're going to the hospital. And, like I said, this was our 5th round. So it was kind of like, okay, we're going to probably have to wait a little bit and we might come back home or whatever. So we finally gotten over the excitement of we're going to have a transplant. And so we get in the car, and of course it's a 3-hour drive. It's an hour drive for me to get home, and then it's a 3-hour drive for us to get to the hospital. So
Wow.
I get home, literally pull into the driveway. Jacob gets into the car. The hubby gives me a kiss and tells Jacob good luck. And he says, call me if we need to come meet you. So we take off towards New Orleans, and we get to New Orleans. And that was all they told us was, come on down. So we get to New Orleans. And then while we're there, once we get there, we check into the hospital, do all the whole hum stuff, and get into our room, and the little transplant nurse comes in and he says, you're going, you're first on the list, everything is perfect, so you're going. And we were like, okay, great. So he starts dressing, and because I'm still thinking, well, we're probably gonna go home.
Mhm.
And so he starts changing his clothes, and the doctor comes in and he says, are you ready for this? And I went, wait, this is really happening. And Jacob said, yes, sir, I am.
Yes.
And so
Wow.
What had he been going through all of those years and months?
so for 2 years before that, Jacob had been on the transplant list, and for a year and 11 months, Jacob had been on dialysis for 10 hours a night, every single night of his life. He
Wow.
he didn't do the regular 3-day-a-week dialysis because he was going to high school. He didn't want to miss his high school, so we opted to do dialysis at our home. And so my husband, who was a paramedic at the time, quit his job, and he would do the dialysis with Jacob at night. And so Jacob was hooked to a machine all night long doing dialysis so that he could make it to school the next day. So
Talk
Wow.
about ambition, huh?
very much so.
He
Yes,
graduated high
So
school early and
he did.
wow.
Yeah,
That
he
is
did. He
crazy.
graduated with a 3.4 average, and started college the next semester. He graduated in December, started college in January. So
So
he was good to move on.
after the doctor came in and gave you both the news that this was going to go, how was Jacob? I mean, how was he mentally? I mean, as far as all this was concerned,
He
I mean,
was
he was a young man, right?
he was a young man. He was stoic. He was quiet. He just didn't have any words to, really, which he's not a real big talker, but he had very few words. And then when the doctor came in and he said, "We're going, the transplant doctor's coming and I'm gonna assist him." He just looked at me and he said, "Okay." He said, "I'm a little nervous." And I said, "It's gonna be okay." But he still didn't know the best part. Neither one of us knew the best part of Reese's donation to us. So Jacob's into his surgery, and about midway through, the doctor comes out to give me a report, and he says everything is great. He's doing fine. The kidney's not quite working yet, but he said I'm going to give it another 10 or 15 minutes, and everything, I'll come back out and let you know how that's going. He said, but let me tell you this. He said, the kidney that Jacob has, and I don't know if I've ever told Missy this, but
No.
the kidney that Jacob has is rated a number 1. And come to find out, kidneys are rated from 1 to 100, 1 being the best and 100 being the worst, as a match for the body. So he got the best possible kidney that God could give
That
him.
is amazing. What a blessing.
I did not
Absolutely.
know.
Wow. So
Absolutely.
I mean, you as a mom, I know you were probably going through a ton of different emotions at this time. I mean, did you know at that time, did they kind of tell you what had happened, how he got the kidney, or they don't say nothing to you?
We didn't know any of that. No, we knew nothing. All we knew was that we had a kidney. That was it. It wasn't until probably a couple of weeks later when he went back for his second bit for his just for his checkup, after we had gotten out the hospital. So maybe midsummer we might have found out how old Reese was, and that was about it. If I'm not mistaken, I think we only knew
Yeah.
how old he was
Yeah,
and that
they
he
they
was from Louisiana. I did know that. They did say he was from Louisiana.
yeah, I knew that Jacob was well, I mean, they said he was an 18-year-old male that lived in Louisiana. That's all I knew.
Yeah.
And that he received one of Reese's kidneys. And that they didn't tell me until about then as well. Because, after, we don't know, once, from the donor side, once our child pass or our family member passes away, we don't know what they successfully got, didn't get, what have you. And of course they give you plenty of time to grieve, and they allow you to ask questions. And of course I'm sure every recipient and every donor, if you're involved in it, you want to know where they went, who they went to, but of course they can't tell you. So they give you very minimal information because they don't want families stalking each other, which, and trying to contact
Kind of makes
each
sense.
other, at least for a year. So, they don't really give you any way to really truly find out if that is the person until,
Right.
later on. And then, then after, I don't remember if it was 6 months or a year, but I think it was right at the
It was a
6 month mark,
year. I know
or at
for
the
us
year
it was
mark.
a year
Yeah,
that
is
they
when
were quick not to reach out.
yeah, and then I was able to write the letter to her, and of course it goes through my sponsor, that goes to her sponsor, and then it goes to her. So, yeah,
Wow.
they don't play when they talk about, being discreet. So,
So you were a part of LOPA at that time, Suzette?
No, I was not. I actually just got involved with LOPA here for Crew Bash.
Okay, all right.
So
So you got
shout out to
involved
Crew
at when
Bash
Crew
and
Bash
Woody.
started. Okay, all right, that makes sense. Yeah. So I mean, so after the organ goes through, everything matches, everything gets started. Um, how was it when you finally found out about Reese? I mean, I'm sure there had to be emotion behind all of that for not just you, but your husband and young Jacob at the time. I mean, that had to be, it had to be, I guess, awkward. The word I would say. I mean, at the moment you found out.
I think that's a good word. Yeah, I do. I think that's a good word because you don't typically think of someone as young as Reese giving an organ, first of all, being, having the knowledge and the thoughtfulness of being an organ donor, and just being 16 and having his parent being put in that position. So yeah, I think it was kind of awkward for us. I think that's
So
a
I
good way to
mean,
describe it.
but I mean, for 2 years you guys have waited, right? And you had to. I mean, does your level of hope go up and down for as the time goes on? I'm sure it has to be a roller coaster. I mean, your emotions have to be just going through the roof. I mean, as a parent, I would be going nuts.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One day uh it's gonna be any day now, Jacob. We're gonna go with any day now, and the next, and probably the next day, it's, oh, we're never gonna get called. When is this ever gonna end? When is his life gonna be somewhat normal? So yeah, it's absolutely an up and down thing. Um, and I think for a long time after that, for months and months and months after that, it was still an up and down thing for us. Um, because we had to deal with the fact that is his body going to keep the kidney, or is it going to reject the kidney? So we still played that up and down game with our emotions for a good long time afterwards.
Because
And
there's no guaranteed science behind it.
right,
You know what
absolutely.
I mean? And
um
and not everybody's gonna take the same thing, and it's never going to. You never know if it's gonna reject it or not. So
right.
you're playing the what if game. So I mean, organ donation isn't just about finding somebody and go, okay, here you go.
Right. No.
Exactly.
And all the screening that I've learned about, maybe you can talk about that, Suzette, because I don't, I mean, I know they screened Reese only after the fact, but since I've been involved with LOPA and I've read up more on it, I've learned that, it's not just a simple, oh, here's a kidney, let's put it, in this person.
Right.
Jacob
Right.
had to go through a lot of screenings, didn't he?
You have to go through, Jacob had to go through mental health screenings. He had, not only did his body have to physically be somewhat capable of handling it, he had to be psychologically capable of handling
Oh
it.
wow, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and without saying this in a derogatory way, we don't want anyone to waste an organ on someone who doesn't want it, or someone who can't. Why not give it to someone that we know is going to be successful? Is the I say the thought behind the process, but that's how I think about it. Give it to someone that it's going to be successful in their body.
Well,
For
yeah, and you want everybody to, you want every person who accepts an organ to be 100% capable to take that organ, right? And I mean,
Right.
Missy, you on the other side of the fence, you on the other side of this fence. I mean, you and I have talked about this before, but after finding out that a very young man, got Reese's kidney, I mean, there had to be a roller coaster of emotions from your side as well, right?
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, I'll say this all day long. I wish I could have my son back, but I can't. It's a reality. And the fact that we had the discussion and that he understood it and that he was able to make his own decision made it that much easier for me to say yes whenever we found out that he was no longer viable. And I want to bust a myth here, just talking right now.
Let's do it. Bust it.
There's a lot of people, think that, oh yeah, well, once, the minute that you talk to, the organ people, they just give up on your child. That's not true.
No.
I mean, I watched the nurses, of course I wasn't back there when the doctors were, but I mean, I could see the nurses back there doing everything that they could to try to save my son's life. And I can say that with confidence. The nursing staff was, I mean, he actually flatlined on me whenever I went into the room to see him. And they reassured me. I mean, I watched them start CPR on him and they were able to revive him. And so, I don't believe, when people try to say that, oh, you're just, signing your death certificate the minute that you say. There's a lot of things that I knew about Reese's condition, and but being a nurse, sometimes it's a curse or a blessing. In this case, I was able to understand exactly what was happening with Reese's brain activity at the time. And I mean, literally right up before we realized that he was not viable, anymore, that, they were about to do a craniotomy just to relieve the pressure on his brain. And they had to do several tests before, and we had to go, they went an extra 24 hours, I think, to make sure that there was nothing. And there were enough signs to show that he wasn't going to be able to make it. So, yeah, that's one thing that I have to say. But knowing that Reese's heart went to a 60-year-old man doesn't bother me. I am so glad that Mark has had the ability to live another 4 years as of now. See his grandchildren doing things that he never could have done. He got a boat. He's still living life, and he's enjoying every single day of it. And then Jacob, being tied to a dialysis machine, every single night of his life as a teenager, that broke my heart just hearing what he had to go through. But it makes me humble, in the fact that Reese was able to make his life better and potentially longer, because I don't know, I hear so much about the guilt that families have after finding out, that someone had to pass away in order for their loved one to either live a better life or to live. And I understand it. So the way I'm able to look at it is, as I said to you, Suzette, in the letter, that is, that if there is any kind of survivor's guilt or anything like that, that I didn't, I can't tell you how to feel, but I really wanted you to know that I didn't want you to have any of that guilt, and that it would be my honor to rejoice and be grateful and celebrate Jacob's life because of my son's selfless act of donation and choice.
Wow, well said. Okay, we're gonna switch this up for a minute. I really want to hear something. I know everybody else is gonna want to hear it. So, you guys met prior to Crew Bash, right? You guys met up before Crew Bash?
Yes.
Okay,
Right,
in
right
each
before.
of your words, I want to hear how that went. And I just want you to, I want to hear from your perspective, from your side, how it was the first time that y'all met. And it could have been, if I don't know where you met. I'm the one asking the questions because I'm the one that's want the audience to know what I want to know. So we all know the same thing. That way we all have this. Okay, never mind. That's too much. That's like John stuff. Missy, let's start with you. So,
Okay.
in your own words, give us just a synopsis of how was it when you walked into where they were and you seen them and you met.
So yeah, building up to walking in the doors, luckily I had two of my best friends with me, Dawn and Melody. They've been my rocks through all of this, and especially rejoicing with me in meeting all of Reese's recipients. But I have to say, I was scared. I was nervous, because I didn't know what to expect. I had experienced it once before with Reese's heart recipient, but that was, about a year and a half prior. So like I said earlier, you don't know what their personality types are going to be, or how they're going to receive you, or how they actually feel about you, So, I was nervous, shaking inside. I was happy. I was excited. I couldn't wait to just see him and meet, his family or whoever was going to be there. It just, I got goosebumps right now just thinking about it. But it's not until you actually see each other and embrace and start to talk. I think it's just a big ball of nerves and excitement at first. So yeah, that's my take on it.
All right, Suzette, how was it for you when, whoever walked in last or whatever, how was it for you when you guys first met?
I think we were first to get there, and it was Jacob and I and his best friend Rhiannon. And I think we got there first, and we got a little table and said okay, we're waiting here and let's see what happens. And we didn't. No one said anything really and truly. We all just kind of sat at the table.
No conversation?
No conversation.
No, it was very somber.
Wow.
And the three of them walked in, and I looked at Jacob, and he looked at me, and he kind of gave me the look of, "That's them, Mom." And so I sat up, and Missy said, I stood up, and Missy said, "Suzette," and I said, "Missy," and we just hugged.
Yep.
It was kind of like you'd have thought we just hadn't seen each other in 10 or 15 years, and it was just we just hugged each other. And I stood there a minute, and after that, and she stood there a minute, and I think it was Melody, if I'm not mistaken, introduced everyone.
We were just like, "Hey."
Hi, I'm John. This is Jacob.
I think Suzette and I were on like cloud 14 or something. We were way out there.
So, yeah.
Wow, that is
it was an
absolutely
awesome
amazing.
feeling,
Yeah,
it
she's
really
like,
was an
"So
awesome
I'm
feeling.
Melody," and we kind of ran around the table.
So, I mean, the conversation, I mean, I don't know. I couldn't even imagine being there at that moment. I'd love to have been a mosquito on the wall and get swatted, but how did the conversation break out? I mean, Missy, did you talk to Jacob? Did you, I mean, because I'm sure he was nervous. I mean, come on, the young man is already shy enough.
Yeah.
I mean, Missy, how did your conversation go with him?
I mean, when you first meet somebody and you, like I said, you really don't know their personality yet, you just kind of make do with your own personality and you just kind of make small talk. At least that's what we did. That's how I felt like I needed to be. And to be honest with you, we really didn't get down into the nuts and bolts and the feelings and the understanding of what was going on with him and versus Reese. We just got to know each other. It wasn't until after the crew bash that we really kind of started diving into the feelings part of it, and me finding out certain things about Jacob and her finding out certain things about Reese. And actually we haven't really gotten that far in conversation, right? I mean, we've had a couple of conversations, but over time, I know
making sure I'm not a stalker.
No.
Well, we know that already. You already admitted to it. You know what I mean? It's too late. It's already on video. You know what I mean? We FaceTime this.
That's right.
Just saying.
Right.
Just
But
saying.
you know what? She's not one of them. What's the word for it? I'm at a loss for words. She's not one of those type of stalkers that kind of make you cringe or anything like that.
Yeah, she's not a scary one, at least.
She's a
right?
sweet stalker. She just wanted to know, and hey, I don't blame
Well,
her.
who wouldn't though?
That's
I mean,
right.
so I mean, how is Jacob? Now. I mean, I know did he struggle at any point after the transplant? Did he struggle mentally or anything like that?
He did.
He did.
He absolutely did. The following semester, he was still at Nichols University the following semester, and he that was a rough semester for him. I think the reality of everything kind of hit him, and he didn't know how to handle that. So he came home and he said, "I'm not going back to school." And I said, "Okay." So he sat out. I think he sat out a semester, and then the next summer he decided to go to the community college and get himself back on track. But he did struggle for a good 6 months with all of what had happened to him. He didn't know how to adjust to, well, I can go out on Friday night now. I'm a teenager. I can go to the football game and I can go hang out with my friends. And, so it was a struggle for him at first,
Yeah, especially
you
probably
know?
the social interaction that he never had,
Yeah,
in his
absolutely.
impressionable teenage years, because he was always at home every
Yeah,
night.
he was on
Right,
dialysis
right.
the whole time. So
Hmm.
how was it? My food's cooking, just so everybody hears. Um,
I'm about 5 minutes
I
away.
know my wife doesn't set an alarm on her phone. I mean, yeah, see, I'm told you, I'm gonna get quiz later. So, I mean, when after everything was said and done, I know on Missy's side there was somebody there for her, and Missy and I had talked about this many a times. Suzette, was there somebody there for Jacob after everything was said and done? Was there like, did he have like a counselor or somebody to try to help him through?
He
Because
did. He had a counselor, and he went to her faithfully, and I think that's what helped him make it through it, because you just don't realize the emotions that you go through and what you actually feel, and I mean, you feel things you've never felt before, you know. I mean, he swears his hair went from curly to straight because he had a transplant. And I'm like, I don't know if that's how that works. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm telling you. So you have these emotions that you have no idea why you're even having them. And as a parent, I had some of the same emotions. I'm like, why do I feel like this? I'm not the one that had the kidney. So we all had friends. I had a very dear friend of mine that her husband had a transplant. And so I reached out to her and I said, hey, I need some help here. And she said, absolutely. So, and my husband found him a friend, and, everybody had to find their own friend or mentor or someone that they could reach out to, because you just have this influx of emotion, and it's an up and down roller coaster all the time for you for
yeah,
a
and
while.
I'm sure everybody's wanting to, they're saying, well, I mean, how could there be any emotion, right? I mean, your son just got something to save his life, but what people really don't understand is to every positive, there's a negative, right?
Right.
I
Hmm.
mean, in my partner over here, my sister, her positive is that her son saved lives, but the negative is that he passed, right?
Right.
Your
Right.
son,
Absolutely.
positive was that he got an organ, but the negative thing was that somebody had passed to give it to him. Let's just throw this out there too, Missy, that, not everybody that gets an organ is from somebody who has passed. There's people that have families that have donated organs and given organs to people as well. So to give an organ, you don't have to die to give an organ to somebody. So,
Correct.
Right. Right.
let's throw that out there. So, as people watch this, they say, so only way you're going to get an organ, I'm telling you, there's people out there that are going to think that.
Yep.
If I could help one of my kids to give them, a kidney or something like that, absolutely I would, right?
Yep.
So you don't always have to die, but
Right.
your statistics are in the favor of somebody who has passed instead of somebody who is living. Let's just, let's make that known.
Yeah.
But for you two, this is a special moment, right? I mean, you two are sitting here talking, jabbering, two beautiful young ladies, two heroes of mine. And I get the blessing because I get you two to come to my house to
Yeah.
hunt this year. I mean, y'all coming here. You're coming to the great
Yes.
state of Wisconsin. So I can take these boys out and show them the good time of what it's like to shoot whitetail up here, up north. And I think that, when you're here, Suzette and Melissa, we're going to talk. We're going to video. We're going to sit on the couch. We're going to sit around the fire. We're going to video and we're going to talk. People, the problem with people today is that they don't understand organs. They don't understand the process. They don't understand the traumas that Suzette went through, even though her son got an organ. People forget about that. They forget that Suzette's son life was saved by a young man who lost his life, but also she is living after that going, I can't believe this young man died for my son. Right? Am I
Right.
correct, Suzette?
You're right. You're correct. Yes. Yes. And that takes a lot to get over.
Yeah.
And even though I don't feel guilty, I feel lost for Missy. you know um so as a parent, I feel for her, and
Yeah.
I share that emotion with her, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
And then
Miss, go ahead, Miss. I
well, I
want
was
you to
gonna
tell
say,
your side.
well, I mean, I just have to come through and just say that, you know, um, I wish everybody was like you. Um, it's hard not having him here, but I've dedicated my life and the rest of my life to ensure that the world knows about my son and what he did, and to help the world understand what exactly a beautiful thing can actually come out of a tragedy. Just because my son died doesn't mean that I have to lay down my life, because that's what I wanted to do. I chose to rejoice in the lives that he saved. So that's where I am with that.
I mean, you both are heroes in my eyes. You know that, right?
Yeah.
And Missy, Reese's legacy, we will never let stop,
Nope.
right? We're going to keep that legacy going forever.
That's
And
right.
whether we talk about the birds and the bees outside or whatever, this channel will continue to go. I mean, it is what it is. And again, I got something in my eye, and I don't know
No,
what
me
it
too.
We're all,
Like
it's okay.
I got something
somebody
in my
turn on
eye.
the
Would you guys quit throwing stuff at me? I mean, man. But it's a wonderful story. It's a wonderful thing and this story is far from being over. There's so much more to this story that's going to need to be told. And people like you, Suzette, who are willing to go out and come on here and tell your story from your side and how you had struggles. People, I'm telling you, people are not knowing what's going on and how to deal with it. And one person's going to watch this. I say this every week. One person's going to watch this, and y'all are going to save one person's life.
Mm-hmm.
And
that makes it all worth it.
That's
you
right.
know what I mean? So you have to be able to. And I'm a really bashful guy. I'm really shy. No, I'm not. I'm just a hunter. But I really enjoy hearing the stories of we had Macy on. Whew, that was another tough one. And we have so many things that are going on, and so many people are asking me now, when's your next episode going to get posted? When's your next episode? You know what? Don't just watch it, subscribe to us, right?
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
I mean, there's so much to tell.
That's
There's
right.
so much to say.
Yeah.
And there's lives that need to be saved, and the list needs to get smaller and smaller. And what I'm hoping, and what I know Missy is hoping, we both hope that we can make this list of donors and that need to have it go down.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that the numbers that we have aren't the real numbers. I'm sure those numbers are higher up there, and we just don't know it.
Right.
I don't think there's no statistical number out there that's real. But I go ahead, Missy.
I was gonna say it's the best that they can do with the information that they have. Correct.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping that this could be just one episode of many, and please, and I know how hard it is for you to come on and just talk. I mean, this is like the best
Well,
conversation.
you saw how difficult it was for me, right?
I know, right? I mean, because there's so many people watching this right now. My dog's over there. She's watching. Hold on. Don't look over here. I mean, when I try to tell everybody when they come on here that Missy and I, we're not going to beat anybody up yet, but we want everybody to have their moment, their moment. And what I'd like you to do is, Suzette, I'd like you to talk to Missy directly. And I mean, I don't want this to, let's keep it from a mush fest here, because, I'm a big ball baby. Don't start with me, sis. Don't start. Okay. But I want you to tell her in your words as a mother how you felt at the day after it was all done. And if you can't, I mean, I'm not saying you have to, but if you can, I want you to just to take a couple of minutes and explain your emotions right after everything was done, and tell Missy, because we're going to have plenty of time to talk while you two are here hunting. But for everybody out in the world who's going to see this, I want them to know how you as a mom felt the day after the surgery. And I want you to tell Missy everything that your emotions were at that point, because I know there was a ton of them. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, wow. I couldn't stop petting Jacob, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
I just doted over him.
Mhm.
The entire time we were in the hospital room, he slept for a couple of days. But the day from the day he got back into his room, that I saw him from the surgery, I was rubbing his hand and rubbing his face and kissing him and just doting over him. That's the only way I can explain it. It was like I had a brand new son,
Mhm.
without the limitations anymore. So I was just, I was so excited, you know, that's all I could do was just love on him. So, and I did that the whole day, the entire day,
Yep. I
you know.
can imagine. I can only imagine. And I mean, I have Jack here with me. He's 23 and it's like, you know, um I'm so lovey-dovey on him. I was lovey-dovey on Reese as well, but I know exactly where you're coming from because that is your precious angel from God. I know that for sure.
And it was just, and that's all I could do was just love him and be so excited for him, because he was sleeping the entire time he was out.
Right.
But it was a phenomenal day for me.
Yes, definitely.
Yep.
So you as a mother of a son that was a recipient, organ donation is big on your list, I'm assuming.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I talk about it all the time to the kids at the school where I'm at. That's something that I encourage my family.
Oh, you went on mute. You accidentally went on mute.
Muted yourself. Unmute. And there
I
you are.
constantly promote it.
There we go.
Yes.
Yeah, you went on mute for a minute.
We didn't
I
hear
think that
any of
was because
that.
I think you were cursing me out or something. I don't
I
know,
said
but
I constantly promote it. It's top on my list. I talk to it about I talk about it to the kids where I teach at, and I'm regularly encouraging everyone to be an organ donor. I think it saves lives, and it's an absolute must. If you're not an organ donor, you need to be.
right? Because you don't
Amen.
know what life you're going to save, right?
Right, exactly.
I mean, we've been doing the Mythbusters, and we're going to do another episode hopefully here soon about Mythbusters because I got a bunch more that I've been researching, and I want my partner to go. It kind of annoys me about the myths of stuff, and I'm a big proponent of the real facts of what it is. We've got a doctor that comes on here and helps as well, and whoa, there was your car was doing this, somebody was closing their trunk, but that's okay. But first I want to thank you for being a teacher, because without people like you in our lives, you're a hero in my eyes. My daughter's a teacher, my wife was a teacher, and I can't thank you enough for what you do for a living. That is very, 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 very hard to do, and I know that it's they don't pay you enough money to do what you do for a living. Let's just put it that way. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for what you do for a living, because that's a huge sacrifice, and you're paving the way of our future. And people like you deserve a lot more in their lives.
That's right. I agree.
I do it because I enjoy it.
Yeah, I know. And that's like Missy being a nurse. I told you I'm just a hunter, so I'm just the guy here. You know what I mean? You guys are the heroes, and I'm just the guy. You know what I'm saying? I'm always surrounded, getting beat up. She's always throwing me out, throwing stuff at me. It's just, it sucks being
Even
me.
though I
Sometimes.
can't reach him because he's in Wisconsin and I'm in
Doesn't know
Louisiana.
that. They don't know that you're not right next to me.
Oh yeah, wait, or does it that way? I don't know. We'll figure it
Hey,
out.
but when you guys do get here, the deer are moving, cameras are going nuts.
Oh,
And
good.
For me, I want to thank you for coming on. I also want to thank my boy and
Yeah.
his wife, Woody and Cindy Overton, for, I mean, come on, who would have thought that we'd be all sitting here having a conversation? Y'all be coming here in 4 to 5 months to go deer hunting in the great state of Wisconsin, shooting big old whitetail.
And Lopa, we gotta give him a shout out too.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I mean, YouTube, this is just one episode of many. We have a lot of this story that hasn't been told.
Right.
And I do have a lot of questions, but I mean, we're not going to put it all in one episode.
Right.
And man, Suzette, I can't thank you enough for coming on, and Missy. And I know this is really, for both of you, this is an emotional day.
It is, but that's okay. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, I'm happy, because I get to tell my son's story, and it means all the world to me. And I know it was very hard for you to come on. Well, maybe it wasn't hard for you to come on, Suzette, but I know that it was, it's hard to talk about sometimes. So I'm just grateful that you did take the time to come out and come talk to us. And I hope you'll come back. I really do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I enjoyed it very much. And I appreciate the offer to come on. And anytime I can tell my story with you guys, that's great. I'd love to do it.
Yeah, and for our audience, make sure you go to our YouTube channel, which is Missy
Reese Gorman, A Legacy Through Organ Donation. If you could like, subscribe, share, comment, we'd be grateful.
Yeah, and there will be more videos coming up. We're taking our time. Missy likes to take her time and watch them 6-7 times before she posts them. So, she's got to go through and make sure, that she gets every part of my hat on the show and, all that. But, I like to thank you again and thank everybody who supports us. Lori, Woody, Cindy, my wife, all of our followers, all of our subscribers. We're just starting. Videos are starting to show. And I gotta thank Missy. Missy, you're absolutely amazing. A beautiful woman, an amazing friend, and just in the graceful presence of having my sister on here with me, even though we're sisters from another mister. You're still a blessing to me.
Thank you.
Absolutely, she is.
That means the world. Thank you so much.
All
Well,
right.
I'm gonna say, see you later, alligator.
And I'm gonna say
After
after a while,
work.
crocodile. Wow.